So I recently developed my first game, and it's been a nightmare. So this whole story began when this little indie game seemingly popped up out of nowhere called Megabonk. Everybody was playing it, from like Twitch streamers to big YouTubers, just absolutely glazing it, singing its praises. But there was one question. Where did this game come from? I mean, fairly quickly, after a little bit of research, you can find that it actually came from a developer called Venedad. Wait, what's this? There is a lot of people online speculating that Venedad, the guy who made Megabonk, is actually Danny Dev. And there is like a lot of evidence that would suggest that this is the case. Now, just a little tidbit about me. I actually watched Danny Dev a lot back in the day. And I hate to be this guy, but yeah, I did it before it was cool. I'm just saying. Everyone's like, oh, where's Carlson? Where's Carlson? I personally want to know, where is Off the Sticks? Now, the reason that I had been watching so long ago is because I've always taken a really big interest in game dev YouTube videos. I love seeing how like you can start with like a Unity or like an Unreal Engine project and then slowly watch it progress into a video game that can be shared and played and is actually fun. So, you know, after this little trip down memory lane, I thought, it's time. I'm going to develop my own video game. I don't know how to code. I don't know how to make art for video games. I'm not even really that familiar with Unity, but I do love video games. So I thought, hey, I'm just going to keep this simple. I'm just going to make a 2D platformer, you know, start at the start of the level, get to the objective, Bob's your uncle. Obviously, I started off by downloading Unity, and I thought I'd make a really, really simple character sprite. So simple. And I decided to make this little duck guy. Now, this was not inspired by anywhere, I can confirm. But looking at it after the fact, maybe there was some like subconscious inspiration going into this. After watching like a million Brackeys tutorials, I got my character walking, jumping around, and actually being a character in the terrain that I'd built. And I kind of had a game. Now, every platformer needs an enemy, so I made these little slime guys, which, you know, were sufficient for my game. I also made this mechanic where you can shoot sunflower seeds by spitting them at the enemies. Personally, because I think making like the Goomba Stomp thing would have been a little bit too hard. Then I fleshed out the rest of my level using like grass textures, some like trees, that sort of thing. And then I thought it's time to add some music to my game. I then used this free online program called Beepbox, which is like this MIDI programmer, and I made like a little 8-bit sounding game song, which, you know, it was sufficient. If I was doing it now though, I'd probably make it a bit differently, but hey, you know, hindsight's 20/20 and all. But with all of that, the game is actually starting to look okay. Now, I know this all seems pretty simple so far, but I cannot stress enough, we are like days into development at this point. For me, I don't know how to code. And that's the biggest thing. You have to watch tutorials, figure out what is going on. Why is my game breaking? And this may have resulted in me putting lines of code into ChatGPT, allegedly. I think probably a third of development time was just spent sitting at my desk, looking at the game like, oh, I gotta finish this. And then I decided to add some coins to my game because every platformer needs like some form of collectibles. They don't do anything, but they're there. They even have a little sound effect when you pick them up. Now at this point, it was time to rework the movement. The movement of the game was sufficient, but I wanted some other mechanics. I wanted my character to be able to run. I also wanted my character to be able to glide when you hold down the spacebar, just to make it feel like, I don't know, I feel like that's something a bird character would do. And after watching numerous tutorials, I got it to work. Yeah. I then added spikes to my game, so you actually had to be successful at the platforming aspect of this, so there was some sort of punishment for failing. But for that to work, I then actually needed to add a respawn point, which was much harder than you think. Okay, side tangent. I do just want to go off for a second. If you're starting out in Unity, the tile palette system, look, it's really good, and it seems fairly easy to use. I don't know why, but that was the biggest nightmare. I had done everything correctly. I had rewatched tutorials like numerous times, and it just would never work. The sprites would be too small because I had to scale everything up by 10, which is fine. I'm aware that I need to do that, but it wasn't working in some instances. And then other times tile palettes would just disappear. All the sprites would go, and then I'd try to re-add them to the tile palette, and I couldn't. So I had to delete that tile palette, make a new one with all the same properties, add everything back in, scale them all up, rebuild the map, and then we were finally back to where we started. Unity's tile palette system looks like it should be simple, but it just breaks. Like, I don't know if it's a skill issue or what. Finally, I needed like a goal in my level. So I made this little goal post in Photoshop. When you reach the end, a little animation plays. Now to make this animation, this part I will glaze. The UI system in Unity, fantastic. For some reason, that just clicked. That was easy. I think it's because I've done like a lot of editing on YouTube. So I'm very familiar with like timestamping things and, you know, making points in the video where things will change and rotate and get bigger. So that was fairly easy for me. I made this little like, congratulations, you beat the level card in Photoshop, and I imported that into the game, and now when you hit the flag, it plays this called like level beat animation, which I thought actually turned out really cool. I then also added these like little mushrooms that would act as launch pads, so when you jumped on them, they'd spring you up, and my game was done. I know, thank you. Now at the end of the day, if you're someone observing this or an experienced game developer, you may be thinking, oh, he made a simple little first game. I wish it was that simple. The amount of roadblocks I had hit along the way, the amount of things that just wouldn't work when they should have worked, my absolute terrible lack of coding knowledge, made this very challenging for me. So much so that I had like several different ideas I wanted to implement into my game that I just ended up abandoning because I just wanted to complete the game. All that being said, it was really rewarding and I had a lot of fun. And at the end of the day, I completed the game. I wanted to make one level just to say, I made a game, here's the mechanics, it's done. I created something. But there was a whole list of things I wanted to do that I just ended up abandoning. Like I added this signpost that tells controls at the start of the game, which isn't too polished, but I wanted to use that same UI interface with different sort of characters throughout the game map so you could have conversations, they'd say funny little lines, and just put in little references and Easter eggs, which could have been cool. But at this point, I just wanted to be like, completed. I'd already spent like close to a week doing this after work, so I finally got it done. But you know what? I finished the game, and I completed this little side quest, and I'm actually really proud of it. The biggest reason I ended up abandoning the game so quickly was because I don't know how to code in C#. And for me, I hate watching tutorials and like using ChatGPT just to say like, how do I put this in my game? I felt like I was stealing code or getting robots to generate it for me. I didn't like that. I want to learn how to do C# in Unity before taking on another project. So if you have any idea how to do that and you're watching this, hey, let me know. But all in all, I had a really good time making it. I think I learnt a lot. I think. Knowing me, most likely I'll have to repeat something like 50 times before I actually remember the information. But yeah, that was my foray into game development. If you have any thoughts or any similar horror stories of making your first game, let me know down below. Also, I do want to say really quickly, thank you so much for all the support I've gotten recently on the channel. You guys have been watching my videos and engaging so much, and genuinely I'm really grateful. So for all you guys, thank you. You're the best. But yeah, you know, hopefully stick around and I can keep making things that hopefully entertain people. But yeah, that's going to be all from me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, I love you. Bye.